This is Support is Sexy, episode 414, and this is our final chapter in our Money Move series. This is part 5, and today we're going to talk about sharing your message. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I bring you inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and lessons to help you take your business to the next level. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm super excited to have you here because it just would not be the same without you. And today I am excited because we are rounding out our series on making money moves. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. This is part 5, and we're going to talk about sharing your message. Now, the whole series has been about having your buckets, how to create your buckets for your money moves. Today I want to talk about how you let people know that your buckets exist. You have to share your message. That's how you let people know. You gotta share your message. You cannot hold this close, precious, keep it close to vest, as they say, or close to your chest. You know what the saying is. You can't hold it in. You have to be willing to share to let people know about it. Tell people what you're up to and how they fit in. The thing is, though, don't wait until everything is perfect. I know you want to, but you have to get out there before perfection. You know why? Because perfection is never going to happen. I will say, even if you feel like you actually get to the point, even though I doubt it, but if you get to that point where you say, this is perfect, well, someone else could come along and say, this is wrong, that is wrong. So in other words, what is perfection, right? It's this false idea. Nothing is perfect, or what's perfect to one might be imperfect to others. So go out with what you feel good about. Go out there with what they call your MVP. We've talked about this many episodes ago, so make sure you search that. Your minimum viable product, your MVP. Get out there and get feedback so you can iterate on it. But you have to get out there, share your message. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm up to, and tell your audience how they fit in. And we talked about all of this in part 3 of our Money Move series on creating your buckets of revenue. That was episode 412. So make sure you go out and listen to that. But get out there, test it, make adjustments. So on this episode, we're going to talk about just 7 ways to share your message, 7 ways with low barriers of entry. That's what I want to give to you, because I don't want you to think you have to do this big thing before you get out there. These are all things that you can start today, if not tomorrow. Start it today. I believe you can do it today. If you make a decision, okay, this is the one I'm going to focus on. This is the one that I'm going to double down on. We've talked about that before, right? This is where I'm going to focus to push my message out there. Not saying that there can't be some combination of all of these, but hey, if you decide that there's one that speaks to you more than others, even if you've heard about these things before, that's something I want to share with you too before we jump into them. I'm sure you've heard about all of these things before. They're not any kind of new way of getting out there. I will say that. But maybe you've heard them again and again and again. This time, try to focus in on what really rings true with you as a way to get your message out there. What do you really want to do? What do you feel will really work for you? What do you feel is, as we talked about in another episode of our series, where is your zone of genius? You don't have to do everything, but what's the area, the platform, the space where you think you will shine and you can most effectively share your message? So that's a perfect segue. The first place, of course, social media. How can you leverage social media to tell people what you're about, what you're up to, what you're offering them, and where they fit in? Now, people have different things to say about social media. I know I've said my things about social media. It feels like a must do other than communicating with you all, which I do enjoy doing. But other things feel like this is another thing to have to do if you approach it that way. I say now I get to do it, right? I get to communicate with you all. But whatever you feel about social media, like I said, is this a space, though, that you can leverage? Is this a space that you enjoy? Is this a space where you can bring your ideas truly to light with something that is already a part of the skills that you have? For example, if you take amazing pictures, hey, maybe Instagram or Pinterest are the platforms for you. If you're a great writer, maybe Facebook, where you can write longer posts, even though people are writing longer posts on Instagram now, those are the spaces for you. So think about it. Is the space or the platforms that are out there, in what ways can you leverage your brilliance on those platforms and get the message out to the world? Here's one thing to keep in mind, though. Do not only build your platform on social media. Social media is a tool for you to get your message out. It is a marketing tool. So I want you to think of it that way. So many brands and companies are starting to talk about more and more, and especially people who are influencers or personalities, if you will, from social media, are starting to speak about how they sort of feel like they were duped into building these big brands on these platforms. And you might say, well, they did that on their own. And a lot of them probably did. But a lot of these companies really incentivize these influencers to build these big followings on these platforms. They do that, and then all of a sudden, the platforms, take your pick, Facebook or whoever, sort of pulls the rug from under these people, or they feel like that at least, and says, okay, to reach your audience now, you have to pay us a certain amount for these ads. The amounts might sound like small amounts, $20 here and there, but you've built this audience. The thing about it is now you can't reach them because your audience is only on social media. So don't just build on social media. Use social media as a tool. Leverage it in the ways that, again, reflect your brilliance or allow you to utilize your brilliance, but don't just build your brand on social media. You have to do other things, whether that's at least your own website and certainly your own email list. So that goes into another thing that we can leverage in order to share your message. This is actually going to be a bonus, I guess. I just thought of this while speaking. I said 7, I'll give you 8. Email. Email is the tried and true way of communicating with people. I know a lot of people, especially younger people, don't use email as much, but most of us have an email. It might mean that you don't use it every day as much, but if I want to connect with you, more than likely, in one way or the other, if you sign up for my email list, you're going to see that email. I know I've signed up for tons of email lists and I've subscribed and I want to hear from a lot of people. I don't get to all the messages, but it's always in my inbox. And when I do, I read through them. So don't think that you don't have to build your email list. No matter what business you're in, do it, do it, do it. I don't think email is going away. These other platforms, who knows? 10 years from now, I don't know. Email, though, will be a way of always getting in touch with people somehow. So you might as well build that list. Say this, even if you build the email list and email does for some reason become, it won't go away, but say it, for example, this would never happen probably, but let's say that mail became much more popular than email. All of a sudden, people want to get their things in the mail now. Well, you still have this email list to reach out to those people to say, hey, I'm going to start mailing people things from now on. Send me your address, or, hey, I'm moving everything to this other platform now. Send me your information. In other words, email will be the place where you still have control over your contact with people. Whereas if these other platforms go away or make you pay to get in front of your people, that's it. You can't get in front of them anymore. Email, though, you can say, I'm going here, I'm going there. This is what I'm doing. And you can stay in touch. So that's my push for email. And I say that too as someone who didn't from the beginning really push building an email list. I always had a great contact list and I still do. My email list is over 1,000 people or so, but it could have been a lot more if I had been more steady or more consistent about building that list. So make sure you do that. Continue to build your list. Continue to stay in touch with your people. Another way to share your message, blogging. Keep it old school. Create a blog. I know that, again, there's a lot of talk about whether blogging is good or not, or doing it nowadays is good or not, because people are not going to places like blogs or even general websites, CNN, wherever, as a destination. Everything is through search. But that said, everything is through search. So why not have a blog, have some great keywords in there, do some good SEO, which is search engine optimization. Make sure you look that up if you haven't heard that term before. But if you're going to have a blog, why not use that to help people come to your website or to your product and use it as, again, a tool that you're leveraging, not just a creative space. If you want to use it as a creative space, great. But you can also use it to leverage whatever you're making, creating, talking about, and get people to your website. So no, people don't necessarily go places as a destination anymore. I'm sure some of us do. Some places we go if we want to see what's going on in fashion, style, politics, finance, whatever. You probably have your go-to sources and websites. But some of it, for the most part, probably you are like everyone else. You just search in the Google machine, right? You search, whatever comes up, that's where you go to, whatever looks good to you. So if you have a blog that has great keywords around your topic, you can move yourself up to the front page. I mean, you can't move yourself, right? We wish. But you have the possibility of appearing at least in search, I will say, on the front page of Google or somewhere in there. You never know who might land on your page. A lot of people find me, as a matter of fact, through YouTube, not blogging, but through my podcast, which I also post on YouTube through Libsyn, which I love. Libsyn is the syndication company I use for my podcast. But I also post on YouTube, just the audio. And several people have told me that they found me through search on YouTube. So YouTube is another place that you could leverage your genius. Gosh, now that's number 9. Okay, anyway, we're just going to keep going through the list as they come up. But YouTube is another place like blogging where you can leverage, but obviously with video. And I mention that because not just for fun and games, even though of course you can do that, but maybe you like video, or maybe you're great on camera, you're a natural, or you can create these videos very easily. Right now, people are in the space where you don't need a full production company. Most of our phones, we have like a whole production team in our pockets, basically, with all of the phones and the quality and the way it looks video wise. So, hey, go ahead. Maybe you can make videos, and that could be your way of getting your message out there. But I mentioned YouTube because, again, people use it for search. It shows up in search in Google. It's owned by Google. But then also people go to YouTube and search. So whatever your topic is, if you've got great keywords in your description and in your title for your video, who knows, it might just show up, and you can use that to share your message. Another way to share your message is what I call OPP, optimizing other people's platforms. And that is usually when you're writing for other people. So writing for blogs or writing for websites, writing for magazines, write for other people, give your content or sell, but you can also offer your content to other people and utilize those platforms. Now, other people could also be LinkedIn. LinkedIn gives you the option to create articles. This is something that's been on my to-do list for, it feels like almost a year now, but for months. I just started posting some articles on there. I'm going to become more consistent as I move some other things off my plate and into the team. We talked about building a team, into the hands of the team that I'm creating around some other things in my business. That'll give me more time to write and focus on being creative. So one of those places that I want to leverage is LinkedIn. So you can write your article on LinkedIn, but you can also link back to your own website, right? Your own blog or whatever you have. You can link to your social media. You can give great offers on there for other things that you want people to get involved in your business. You can write a short bio and tell who you are. Of course, it'll be linked to your LinkedIn page. So LinkedIn is a great place to leverage, especially if you're talking about something that's, well, my thing is entrepreneurship or small business or something professional or careers or you can talk about anything, right? Anything that you're doing. But I think especially if you're in those spaces, that's what most of those people are on LinkedIn. People who are looking for jobs, posting jobs, have jobs, looking for connections, networking at a certain level. So that's an example of another person's platform that you can also use in addition to other people that you might collaborate with along the way. And to follow up on that, you can also repurpose your content on more than one platform. So say you do have a blog on your website, that's a great topic, and then you want to post that on LinkedIn also, and then it's syndicated in a magazine as part of a column also, or on a website if not in a magazine. On a website, it's syndicated there also. It used to be, and I don't know if people still say this, it used to be when I worked in digital media that you didn't want to post the same thing in a lot of different places online. They said it would be confusing with SEO. And I don't know if anyone really knows, but here's what I think. Repurpose it. So for me, for example, I have a podcast, obviously, as you know, because you're here. Thank you for being here. But there are a lot of these solo episodes that I do that can be repurposed, written, and packaged as content that people can read if they want to. Of course, you can listen to the podcast. I don't do video yet. We'll see. But it can be written up as great tips and information that can be repurposed. It can be broken up. It can all be one package. It can be a series like it is here. So I'm starting to think that way of how can I repurpose content for my own blog, but also for LinkedIn and other places that I want to write and share content with, Entrepreneur, Inc., and a lot of other magazines and other places that are starting to reach out and having conversations. There's all this content here that I'm not repurposing that I very well could. So for you, is there content that you're writing in one place that you're not repurposing somewhere else that you could repurpose? Even if that's, when I say content, it doesn't have to be writing. I said writing, but it could also be images. Are there images that you can use in other ways, in other platforms? Are there people who are looking for content? I know Huffington Post has been reaching out for writers and other people since they stopped their blogger platform. So you can reach out. You'd have to pitch it, but still, there are a lot of websites looking for great content. Hey, maybe you can use this as a way to leverage OPP, other people's platforms, right? Optimize other people's platform, repurpose your content and use it on those platforms. So hopefully that's an idea maybe you didn't think about, or maybe you didn't think about in the same way. But repurpose content that you already have. Repurpose it, repackage it, update it. There are a lot of things that you can do where you don't even have to do exactly the same content, but you can do some version of it, mix it up a little bit, and offer it to someone else. Now, our next idea is something that is close to my heart, podcasting. Of course, you can start your own podcast. It's not as difficult as you think. Come up with your idea, decide what your focus is going to be. There are, of course, a few steps to take before then, and you can easily Google and find free online courses. I did John Lee Dumas's from Entrepreneur on Fire. Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income has a great one for free that tells you about mics and how to get your show on iTunes and all the other things that you need to know to get started, right? So people think, oh, it's so difficult. I need all this equipment. Well, how do you know? Did you really do all of your research? Did you look it up and find these different free things that I just mentioned? And I can link to them in the show notes so you can find them easily if you're interested in being a podcast host. But yes, you can get started. Even if you don't get a mic, if you start with your headphones and your laptop, you just start talking, have an idea, have a focus, what's going to be your area of expertise, but then get started. How can you get started, right? As we say, get out there with your MVP and continue to get better. You can't get better if you don't get started, right? You can't get better if you don't get started. So get started. And podcasting, as it continues to grow, I believe in 2015, listenership in the U.S. was 47 million. And in 2017, it had grown to 67 or 65 million. So listenership continues to grow. And if you're a woman out there, the space is still dominated by men, which for me presents opportunity. So if you're thinking about getting out there, letting your voice out there, if you're better at audio, if that's your zone of genius, consider podcasting. And then, of course, on the other side of the mic, consider podcast guesting. You know, I am a big advocate of that now. Having booked over 250 women on the Support is Sexy podcast, I know the power of having guests on your show, but I know the power of being a guest as well, because these women have shared with me just how much being on my show, and others, of course, has done for their business or their brands, because they're constantly sharing their message in front of new people. You're constantly connecting with these other audiences, new audiences outside of your own, but who are still in your target, if you will. But you can connect, get in front of them, share your expertise on a consistent basis, and you don't have to set up anything other than getting yourself a good mic, if that, but I suggest that. Get yourself a good mic so you have good audio and you can do the podcast from anywhere. You don't have to do all the worrying of getting it up and getting guests and doing all the other things that goes into hosting, because even though hosting is, like I said, an easy, not easy, it is not as high a barrier of entry as people think. It does take a lot to be consistent with podcasting. You know me, 5 days a week. It takes a lot, even 1 day a week. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of time and commitment. So there is that. I will say that. But as a guest, you just show up for when the podcast goes on, right? Show up as your very best. You can be the guest, get in front of new audiences, share your message, get people back to your website by offering them a gift, offer them something of value that makes them want to sign up and get on your email list, circling back to what we talked about earlier. So you can leverage podcast guesting in so many ways to build your business, tell people what you're up to, what you're all about, how they can get involved, how they fit in. You can use podcast guesting, leverage that as a way to build your business. I think it is one of the savviest ways to get out your message now. In fact, I've mentioned this before, but Dory Clark, who was a guest on the Support is Sexy podcast, so make sure you go look at that. She wrote the book Entrepreneurial You, which is one of my favorites right now. And she said she has been in, I believe, she's been on more than 160 podcasts at this point. It's probably more. This was when I spoke to her a couple of months ago, I think before the holiday, because she was promoting her book. And she said podcast guesting was one of the best ways to raise awareness about her book. It's not like you're fighting for television spots, which there are so few of them. There's tons of podcast opportunities out there. Again, audiences all over the world. And another great thing about being a guest is you are being introduced by the host to their audience, right? So it's like I'm bringing you to a party and saying, this is my fantastic friend so-and-so, and she's going to talk about such and such. Everyone gather around. That's what I think it's like. You're being introduced to the audience by this host, and the audience usually trusts that host. Otherwise, they wouldn't continue to listen, right? So you're even getting it in that way. You're not just someone who's on whatever kind of TV show because you're the guest of the moment. Well, those people aren't necessarily. They might be, but for the most part, they're probably not invested in you. It may just be that you cover this particular topic. At least that's the way I view it. And yeah, I might be a little biased, whatever. I still think podcast guesting is a great way to share the message about your business. And speaking of great offers, I have a great offer for you if you are interested in podcast guesting. It's a free guide on how to be an unforgettable podcast guest. A lot of people get scared at the idea of being a guest, even though you know you want to, or you want more visibility, but you're afraid to get out there, but you know you want to. I've got a guide for you on how to be an unforgettable podcast guest. Simple steps on just how to do that. And you can get that at girlonpodcastgift.com. Again, girlonpodcastgift.com. It's a free download, how to be an unforgettable podcast guest. Get it? Let me know what you think. I'd love to chat with you more about it. But again, consider podcast guesting. And the last way to get your message out there, you know you can say it with me at this point, support. Make sure you get support for what you're doing. Don't be like I used to be and like I still am sometimes. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to make this happen. No, no, no. How can you get support for this thing? Now, all of the things that we spoke about are, of course, ways of getting support. But you can also get referrals from people. You can also let people know what you're up to so they can share your message on your behalf. There are a lot of ways to get support, but you have to, one, be out there, but then also know how to enroll people in your vision. Not ask them to do your job for you or anything like that. And as I always say, you're not looking for a savior. You're looking for support. But be open to it so that you can receive it and accept it. To do so, though, you have to say, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm up to. And I always prefer when someone has a clear ask. So sometimes people think, I don't want to ask for, well, if you're reaching out, then you should have a clear ask. Otherwise, just don't reach out unless you're okay with just saying, this is what I'm up to. And that's okay, too. But when you are reaching out to someone and you do actually want something from them, make a clear ask. One of my things, it's not a pet peeve, but it slows me down and it slows down how I can support you when people reach out and they don't say exactly what they want. If you're just saying hi, great. Hi, you're telling me what you're up to. Great. I want to know. I'm in contact with a lot of you via email. But if you do need something, you need to say, this is what I can do. It's just like with your customer. Tell me where I can fit in, just like with support. Tell me where I can fit in as far as supporting you. So support is something that you want to make sure that you get and that you leverage. This is going to help you get the word out about your buckets and to help you make money moves. All right. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this series. This was a fun one. You're going to see me repurpose this. It will appear somewhere else. So I will make sure that I let you know about that. But of course, you can always go back and listen to, I believe we started at episode 410. If you missed any of those, go back and listen. We went through a series on different topics on making money moves. And as I mentioned, I may have mentioned, if not, I'm going to mention it now. I am much more focused this year on telling women entrepreneurs ways that you can make money in your business. As much as we want to know how people built their business and those things, I love those parts of the stories too. But I'm finding so many of us, myself included, aren't focused on how am I going to make money so I can continue doing this thing. Not that it becomes all about the money, but if you want to continue your business, unless you want to support it with the other stuff you're doing, you want to actually have a business, we have to figure out, how can I make money in this? And I want to introduce people to you who tell you things you need to have in place in order to make money, but also tell you ways to do that maybe you hadn't thought of, or maybe you can do differently. So all of that is going to be part of the discussion throughout 2018. So you'll hear a lot more about that, and me getting more specific maybe with some of the guests who come on who have a very particular area of focus. That's my plan. I just laid out my vision. That's my vision for 2018. So really giving you that kind of content so you can, it's like a workshop. We're going to do some workshops here and really get focused in some of our interviews and some of our conversations. All right. So I look forward to sharing that with you when the time comes. In the meantime, you know what to do. Always remember, you deserve support. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.